Hey everyone, in today's video, this thing is finally done. So over the past month or so, I've been restoring this Marantz 2250B by replacing all the capacitors, upgrading some of the transistors and diodes, cleaning the controls, and plenty of other stuff like changing the light bulbs and changing the vellum paper. I'm really pleased with the results. I think the receiver looks great, I think it sounds great, and I'm going to show you just what it's performing like in this video to the best of my ability. I'm going to show you an after power test comparable to what I did in the benchmark video. I'm going to show you audio recordings before and after, and then I'll run the entire receiver, preamp and power amplifier through RightMark audio, and we'll look at the total harmonic distortion, noise levels, dynamic range, all that good stuff. So let's get started. So if you haven't seen the other videos on my channel yet, let's just take a minute to go over what exactly has been done to this receiver. First of all, it's had all of the lights replaced, some with LEDs, some with incandescents. Watch my relamp video to see how I went about replacing the lights on this. All the controls have been cleaned. All these push buttons, all these knobs, they've all been cleaned with the proper deoxit product, except for the power switch, because the power switch is brand new, so it does not need to be cleaned. Next, if we look inside, the filter capacitors have been replaced. You see we've got Nichicon gold tunes in there, same spec as the originals. The power supply board has been upgraded and restored. It's got some more powerful semiconductors on there, a little bit higher voltage capacitors, and a brand new speaker relay. Next, from up here, if I were to remove these covers, you'd see that all of these boards under here have been recapped. They have brand new electrolytic capacitors, and the power amplifier boards have been recapped and had some new transistors replaced, like the differential pair. The output transistors had new thermal compound applied to them, and now, if we take a look underneath the receiver, we see that the phono preamplifier board has been restored. It has new capacitors and some new semiconductors, and you can't quite see it because we've got the foil side here, but this is the preamplifier board, and this board has been restored. This board's also been upgraded with the Sparco Slabs BA312M discrete op-amp kit. So that's a good overview of what's been done to this thing. Okay, it's time to do the power test on the restored 2250B. I've got the load resistors hooked up back here. I've got a voltmeter across one and an oscilloscope across the same one, so we can measure both the voltage and look at the waveform at the same time as we increase the volume here. So I've got a tone playing at 1000 Hertz here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to bring the volume up until I see clipping in the waveform here. So clipping is when you see those flat spots right there, so that's not good. So we're going to bring the volume down until I don't see that anymore. So I think right about there I don't see any more clipping. So what's that voltage? That's 22.73 volts. So that's pretty cool. Let's check the left channel now, because this was the right channel. Okay, we've got things switched over here. We're on the other load resistor, which is on the left channel. So let's do the same thing. 1000 Hertz going through. Let's bring it up until we see clipping. We'll call that good. So we're at about 22.6 volts there. Alright, and if we go to our Ohm's Law calculator, so over here we type in 22.64 volts into 8 ohms and we calculate, we see that we've got 64 watts on the left channel. Then if we type in what was it, 22.72 on the right channel, we see that we have 64.5 watts on the right side. Now, those of you who watched the benchmark video may remember these values are a little bit smaller than they were before. Why is that? You know what? I don't know. But at the end of the day, those values are not that different. We're still on par. We're still way over the 50 watts per channel that this thing is supposed to be at. And frankly, it sounds really good. And that's all I really care about at the end of a restoration is I care that the receiver sounds good and that it is reliable. And the next part of this video is going to be a direct audio comparison using an Audio-Technica AT2020 microphone. That microphone is being run into a USB audio interface, and it's being used with a MacBook Pro running GarageBand. The level on the microphone preamp is turned up all the way in both scenarios, and the microphone placement is about the same, but it's not the same. I didn't take good enough note of where I had the microphone originally, and the video that I took to remember or to take note of where that microphone was has been lost. So in the future I'm going to try to do a better job of making sure the microphone is placed, in the exact same position. So in terms of what the Marantz is doing, I have it set to aux. I'm using my phone to play some royalty-free YouTube music. Loudness is off, controls are all on flat, and the volume is turned up until I see clipping on the recording software. Now, what was interesting is before the restoration, I had to turn the knob to about 10:30ish on the dial here. But after the restoration, I found that I had to turn the volume up to about noon almost to get the same decibel level or volume. I think that's really interesting. I don't know why that is exactly, but if I had to guess, it's probably got something to do with the preamplifier upgrades. This is just my disclaimer. Before I play these recordings, I'm not claiming these to be perfectly apples to apples. I think that there's some room for error, and you should really take what you're about to hear with a grain of salt. That being said, I think the restored receiver sounds a little bit better. Even though the microphones are placed about the same, it's definitely different. I tried to get them to sound the same by kind of moving the microphone around, thinking, oh, maybe I had it this far, or maybe I had it this height. I got it as close as I could, in my opinion. So without further ado, let's take a listen. See what you think.
Now we're going to talk about the actual performance in terms of numbers and graphs on this restored 2250B. So basically what RightMark audio does is it plays a bunch of sounds through an amplifier, and it knows what it's playing, but it's taking a very close look at what's coming back to it after it moves through the amplifier in question. Now unfortunately, I do not have before numbers because I was not aware of RightMark audio until after I started restoring the receiver. For those of you who are interested, what I've done here is I actually ran the entire receiver through this time. I hooked up RightMark audio with my sound cards line out to aux on the receiver, and then I used some deconstructed RCA cables to 1/8 inch in on the line in on the sound card, and that's how this is getting sound off of the speaker terminals or main amplifier for the 2250B. So let's take a look at these graphs here. I'll just kind of show them to you. This is what the noise levels look like and the frequency response. Next we'll look at the dynamic range and the total harmonic distortion. 0.007%, that's pretty good. So that's what those look like. Intermodulation, distortion plus noise, stereo crosstalk, and then we've got swept frequencies for this thing. That looks pretty okay. Nice straight line there. Okay, so those are the RightMark audio test results.
So you may be asking yourself, is it worth it? And the answer is yes, absolutely. Because though this might not sound that different, it might only sound a little bit better. You know what I know is going to happen? This thing's going to turn on and it's going to work every single time for the next 40 years. Because I've replaced everything that's problematic. I've cleaned out dirty controls. I've replaced the relay, everything. This thing is so reliable. And that's awesome. And that's really all I could really ask for in a vintage stereo system. So that's why I like to do this. I like it when things work, and they work well, and they work exactly as they were intended to. So with that, thank you so much for watching. Thank you to all of the subscribers that subscribed for this journey of getting here. Let me know in the comments what kind of receivers you'd like to see restored on this channel, or what other kind of content. There are some other things in store, like these, and this, and even this. So, subscribe if you want to see these. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.